Hello and welcome to a new format of the Game Art Talk podcast called Co-op, where I have now two guests and where we discuss game development related stuff. I already had my two guests on the show, but now we have them in a tag team. In the red corner we have Clinton, the founder of Dekogon, and in the blue corner we have Taylor Brandenburger, who is the production director and lead 3D artist. Hey Clinton and Taylor, how are you guys?
Good, how you doing?
Good. We're about to box this out, right, Clinton?
Yeah.
I don't hope so, man. You were both working for Dekogon, so how's everything going currently?
Business is booming.
Yeah, it's going great, man. It's going really good.
Both finished season 2, right?
Yeah, we just finished season 2, and then now heading into a lot of contract work with a bunch of clients, and so yeah, business is great.
Yeah, it's keeping up that
You're
pace.
pumping the sets out like a machine, man.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. It's crazy, man.
So, Taylor, tell me something about your usual workday. So, how does it look like? When are you getting up? How much breaks do you take? When are you saying I don't have any time? I just need to chill.
So I get up, I go to bed at like maybe 2 in the morning. I wake up at like 8:30, roll out of bed, get on my computer at 9, and then I usually gloss over whatever one, because we have some of the contract guys, they're in the EU, so usually I'll check up and see what they're doing, because their day is like halfway over. So I'll review things, do all that, and usually then I start, after like 30 minutes of just checking everything, I go into to start doing like whatever it is I have on my to-do list. So like modeling or blocking out environments, figuring out environments. Sometimes I have estimations I have to get to Clinton. But just like the general, I guess, management thing I do in the beginning of the day, and then towards the fall off of the day, I just work on art stuff and usually talk to clients and make sure they're happy, make sure the artists are happy. I usually jump into a couple calls within our contract artists, because we have a section to where everyone that's working can get together and talk while we work. It's just a way to kind of, because with freelancing can sometimes feel isolating. So I kind of set up an idea to where you can come in and hang out, and just talk to your lead. You can talk to your coworker. You can talk just anybody you want, and throw some jokes in the chat, and also get work done. Since Clinton's on the east side, time zone's a little different, or he's on the west side.
Yeah.
So I wish he was on the east time.
Yeah.
So
West Coast.
I don't know about that. But
California.
So 3-hour difference. So Clinton's still going till like 5, so I'll probably stick around till 8 or 9. I don't really have like a chill period. I usually just like watch YouTube videos while I'm working, or I'll grab like a quick snack. But for the most part, I don't really do much. So
you're kind of getting through the day without any schedule, right? You're just doing your work.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a mixture.
It really is. It'd be like that.
So I think the same applies for Clinton, right?
Yeah. So very similar. I got up around I'd probably say around 6:30 every morning, and then I work till around like depends on the day, but typically till around 10 or 11 p.m. at night. But there's like obviously breaks in between. I'll take like an hour to myself to go do something, or go work out, or like hang out with my wife, or like take my dogs out and stuff like that. But yeah, typically like the kind of similar structure to Taylor, where I wake up and kind of do my managerial things first. I sync up with Taylor, see where we're at with everything. I can contact all the artists that are working on contract projects and see where they're at. And then just kind of catch up with any kind of like emails or contract negotiation, things like that. And then for the rest of the day, it's typically working on art for different clients, or getting estimates out, or whatever else that's we kind of need for Dekogon throughout the day.
So I think you're both working at home. So how do you like working from home? In my opinion, I have to say I can't wait to get a job in the studio, because when I'm at home, I get distracted so many times. I can't focus that much, because it's always you're making some food and you always kind of get distracted. And So how do you like it? I think Clinton, you said you really like it. You really appreciate it, right?
I love it. I've worked in the industry for I guess 11 years now as a professional in a studio, and so this was the first year that I worked. Year and a half, I guess it's been. Yeah, since I've started working from home, and then I love working from home. I guess the thing that I really like about it is that I like everyone always says like how do you get so much done in a day, and it's like there's only 24 hours in a day, and so having another hour that I'm not spending going back and forth to work, I use that hour for myself or for something else I need to do, and so I like having the full time control management of my entire day comparatively to being like I have to worry about this getting transit and like getting up and doing this, where I just like I literally can wake up, make a cup of coffee, and then get to work as I like. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Taylor, you said in the chat we had on the podcast that you don't like it that much, right?
Yeah, that position's kind of changed. The only thing I don't like about freelancing is that there's never that away period because you're always connected.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's never like you'll be in the bathtub, watching a movie, and you'll get a message from Clinton saying, "Hey, I need estimates like this, that, this." So it's like, okay, gotta go get estimates,
I always ruin bathtub time.
It's your fault, Clinton. Exactly your fault.
So, but that's perspective. As I'm like getting, I wouldn't say older, but as I'm like experiencing things, I'm kind of seeing how much I'm starting to like working from home. I think the social aspect that we've created amongst the contract workers kind of has cured that missing that social gap between like having the studio culture, because that's the only thing I really love about, that I would love about having a studio is throwing paper airplanes at Clinton, bugging co-workers, but having that social gap filled amongst the freelancers is really nice. I still would like to dive my foot into it and see how it is, but as you get older, you have responsibilities, kids. I definitely want to be around there for when I start a family, and I mean, what perfect of a time is that to, always be surrounded by the kids and also be able to work from home. You don't have to, and the biggest thing is transportation too. That does not sound fun, traveling from and to.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's the huge benefit when you work from home. You don't have to travel. You don't have to pay for travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just gotta roll out of bed 30 minutes before you work, and you're good. It's
And speaking of that, there's actually a lot of contractors that work with Dekogon that do have families that do work from home that like basically take care of their kids all day and continue to work with us, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity for them to be able to continue to work on stuff they like and continue to make art, but still be good parents as well.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is renting about a co-working space in like 5 minutes away from my home, where I have kind of this cave where I can get into and just focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they have a lot of those in the States. It's called I think it's like WeWorks or something like that. They have a few of those that's just basically like a collaborative space that you can go in and like work with other people. And I think you just pay like a membership fee and you can get internet and there's like lawyer on site, a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, that's the thing. It's called a WeWork. And it's like cool. And so it's really nice because it's in bigger cities. They might have one in Austin. It might be worth checking out for sure because I know Taylor's about to move there. So it's definitely something that could be of interest to like look into for collaborative spaces. But yeah, I think with like Dekogon, we're still trying to figure out exactly where that's going to be for us over the next couple of years. Just because Taylor's going to be in Austin and I'm in Vancouver right now, and so I think that's something we'll still try to figure out as we go along, especially since there's so many contract people all over the world. But I definitely agree with Taylor. I do miss sometimes the camaraderie that you get from being in a space together. I do miss times when I worked at Coalition when I really liked the people that I worked with there. And so you do tend to miss those interactions that you get and the humor that you get from the day and stuff like that.
Would you say that this kind of interaction, this social interaction, is benefiting the project?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
I don't know. I think it benefits the project as in, so there's obviously a bunch of stress that comes with doing all those tasks. I think having that social interaction relieves a lot of that stress because I mean, who doesn't like to get a good laugh or just get away from the project for like a brief second, even if that means just talking to somebody for like 5 minutes. I think in turn that does maybe affect their work and the result making the project not so painful, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good question though.
It's good to have a balance of like, I think, personal time and like personal reflection, as well as like, work time, even when you're at work. I think there's, everyone needs breaks that they take throughout the day, like coffee breaks or, bathroom breaks, or just like relaxing breaks, just to like take a second to collect yourself. And so I think that's really important. And I think that does add to that. And I don't think it's honestly, I don't think working from home is for everybody. Like I definitely would say a lot of people I've worked with are it's just not, they're just saying you're cut out for it, or they just don't like it. And that's totally understandable. Like I get it. That's nothing wrong with that. But I think you definitely have to be someone that's like very equipped to time manage yourself. And I think that's one of the reasons like I brought on Taylor, because he's like, I don't have to tell him anything. He just does it. He just knows what to do before I say it. And so like you have to be working with people like that to be able to work remotely. Whereas like if people, you're working with people that need to be told like what to do throughout the day, like every second, it's a little harder to do the remote work.
Yeah, that's so true. Did anyone of you see the movie or the documentary Raising Kratos?
No, I have not seen that one yet.
Oh, you should see it, because
Loved it.
Good.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Really good. Because in this documentary, you really saw how the team is growing together and working on one project, and this is so nice to see. And I think this wouldn't be possible if everyone is working remotely.
Sure, that makes sense.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, Corey's a beast. I love that guy.
Corey, yeah, he's great.
Yeah. What were you saying, Clinton?
It makes a big difference. Like when you have a larger like AAA project compared to like a more indie project. Indie projects are a little easier to do like one-offs, but when you have something like when I was working on like yours, like we'd have one person working on like the hair follicles, there's another person working on like the eyeballs, and so it's like really hard to work remotely when you're like working on like 20 parts of a character and each person's working on a part, comparatively to like indie development or like AA development, where it's like one person's doing a whole character, then they're submitting it, and that's it. It's not like a lot of trade-off or pass-off. And so I feel like when you have a big studio like that, it definitely makes more sense to have those people like all together in the same room.
Yeah, that's true. That's completely true. It kind of depends on the project. So, what do you think was the best improvement for your personal career regarding art and the game development? So I think we can start with Taylor, if you want to.
I'm still thinking. Clinton's probably got something up his head.
He's more experienced,
Yeah.
That's a tough question. Like I feel like I don't know. Like it's hard to say. Like we mentioned PBR a little bit a while ago. We were talking about it, and I feel like that's a big one, but I don't necessarily think that's the most revolutionary change. I feel like I don't know.
There were lots of changes. I would think you're in the game for 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I think optimization, because like lighting wouldn't be where it is in terms of like global illumination, and like just the optimization behind all these engines can like it would not be where it was. I mean, we have like volumetric fog that's like real time. It's like awesome. So
I know one for artists. It would be baking in Marmoset. Until you bake in Marmoset, everyone's always like, "Oh, I bake in this, I bake in that," and I'm like, "Nah, son, you got to try Marmoset," because that's like changed my entire perspective on like how I go about baking. And it's like I felt like when I was baking as like an artist when I was younger, like it'd be like a 90% chance your first bake is gonna suck, and there's like gonna be a problem with it, or there's gonna be some issues. You have to fix the cage or tweak this for like an hour and whatever. And nowadays it's like literally like 99% success rate, where I just throw a Marmoset, hit bake, and it's like these two things I might have to fix up, but most of the time it's just like perfect right out the oven. So I love that. I think it saves a lot of time production wise.
Yeah, I think I had to learn this on my own, the hard way. I love baking with Substance Painter, but it's when you regarding to Marmosets, it's complete bullshit.
Well, yeah, man. When you're looking at that loading bar, sit at 50 for like 15 minutes, man. You don't know whether to cancel or to leave it.
Bake DAO in Substance Painter, you don't know if it's working out or your machine is burning now in like 5 minutes.
That was hard. That was a hard time.
And the difference too, the blending of the the surface normals and the geo normals. That's such a nice feature in Marmoset as well too. Which Painter, I'm not quite sure if there's an update for that yet, but I know it was a little bit of a pain when I used Painter's Baker a couple years ago.
So, go on.
Would you say that Algorithmic is coming with something up regarding the baking?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about that quite yet.
Yeah, I think they're so focused on materials at the moment and like transitioning to photo scan.
That's their moneymaker right now.
So the baking is kind of a side project, which is nice to have. But
I think they know that Marmoset's better, and I mean it's like Quixel knew that they can't compete with Painter, so like Quixel kind of went off and did their own thing. I think you're always gonna have a painter or a baker and painter, but I don't know. I think they kind of all they need is a progress bar. That's literally all they need is a progress bar. Make it faster. I can bake it normal in like 3 seconds in Marmoset. So yeah, I guess that. Regarding like the original question, was it what made us better as art or like better as career wise?
Yeah, what was the best improvement for you?
Like personally?
It can be software wise, it can be technically, it can be something else. Everything.
I would say having the building the confidence to be able to say I can do that, I think is huge. It's also a huge hurdle to like overcome. 'Cause I remember when we had collab season 1, and I used that chance to do a lot of assets that I normally would not like to do because they look too hard. And now I'm at a point to where I've kind of done everything that I don't like to do or what I normally wouldn't have wanted to do. But I'm so used to just going outside the comfort zone, and then once I'm in the comfort zone, being like, okay, Taylor, like you can't get out of this. Like you can't say, you can't hand this off to somebody else. Like it's your responsibility now. And I think problem solving, all that has just built a tremendous confidence in saying, I can look at that and dissect it, and being able to, come out on the other end. But yeah, I would say definitely was the confidence thing has definitely boosted my career in a sense to a lot better of a level than in the past.
That's true.
Do you have any good ones?
Yeah, I think it's a definite good one because I think when I first talked to you in season 1, I feel like you definitely took on a lot of tasks that a lot of people didn't want to, and I think that's a good advice for any artist that's like coming into the industry, or at least just like in general just working their way through like junior to mid-level to senior to principal or art director or whatever. I feel like because what happens is you'll get a lot of artists that will be like, I don't know how to use Marvelous, or I don't know how to use this, or I've never done that before, so I'm not going to do it. And the thing is, honestly, is if you say no, someone else is willing to say yes, and that person's probably going to get your job. So like you always want to be like open and willing to like try something new, because you're always going to have to be improving your skills. Like as you get older, you're obviously more resistant to like learning new stuff. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I got to learn this new thing, and it's like it's so much work. But it's like at the same time, it's like that's what makes you honestly like a better artist, and like gets you, improves your ability every day. It's just to continue to take on tasks that you normally wouldn't take on, or you would be a little afraid to take on.
Yeah, it's so true, Clinton. So you were talking about the art roles. We have a junior, we have a senior, we have a principal, we have a lead director, we have a unicorn who knows everything, who does everything. So it's kind of becoming a mixture between those roles. So how is your guessing on that? We now have a senior plus, so
there's a senior plus.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird roles now. I mean, I think it's just because the industry's become so specialized, and also like as humans, we like to secularize things or like put things into categories, and so we need those things to be able to be like, okay, this person is above this person, and their pay grade is different than their pay grade, and their ability is different in this respect to this person, and so. It's just all just different labels, right? It's just like making sure that people understand, like, I guess the general flow of like hierarchy within a company or whatnot. You usually don't have as much of that stuff when it comes to like AA or indie studios. It's usually pretty level across the playing field. for like what your roles are. Like there's not too much like range, but as you get into bigger studios or companies, like your range is going to be different. Like I know like Amazon and like Google have like a particular, like you're like an A4, it's like military style, like basically like you're an A4, so you get paid this much and this is your ranking and this is who you're below and this is who you're above. And so it's just like the bigger the studio, the more I think call outs it gets for those kind of roles.
I think the line between those, I guess, roles is slowly starting to blur together. I don't think studio wise. I think it could affect a studio, but I think we're seeing it more like with OS, like Dekogon, is that you see a lot of people come in with just like exceptional talent, but they don't have any history. They don't have any games produced or games released or anything. So I think it's almost like a game of shoots or ladders. I'm honestly thinking of how it's slowly starting to become, because we're seeing a lot of juniors or who would have been beginner juniors just jumping straight to senior. I think, and part of it's because there's not the. It's really about it's like what Clinton said. It's who's better than who, and what role you're given. But I think regarding the higher roles, as you start to get higher, it's about if you can manage other people while also contributing to the greater good of the project. Yep. And I think that's where, not a lot of people can skip. I feel like that's something that it's either you have or you don't. And if you don't have it, it takes a while to gain, because it's not really often, or it's not a thing to have like a beginner junior guy just jump straight to, managing a project. That's something that you're just born with. It's a leadership quality that you're just given. But I like going back to like what I said. I think those lines are slowly starting to blur. My only concern is that we're slowly starting to see portfolios for higher senior artists or higher or just more experienced artists not become as, I guess, there's not really a standard. I'd say as rough as it sounds, it's slowly starting to like lose its grip. Just like with juniors, sometimes you have a class junior artist, and sometimes you have a uni guy. There's really they're all in the same bunch. I think that's why you're starting to see like senior plus and whatnot. But it's scary to me, because now they're looking at the experience. They're not really looking at, okay, like the experience is one thing, but I think there's a couple of things you gotta look at. You gotta look at your portfolio. Like, are they actually, does it show like 7 years of experience of like raw talent and class? But I'm slowly starting to see more and more average senior artists, and I'm starting to see a lot more fucking class junior artists. Yeah. And I think that gap is slowly starting to get a little bit more blurred. Honestly, I wouldn't be, because Clinton is a senior artist. Does it have any other roles regarding juniors? Like, do they manage it all? Like, do they have like a group of juniors they take care of, or is senior just given like higher responsibility in terms of like assets?
Yeah, usually it's just higher responsibility. Sometimes every once in a while, like say for instance, like at the coalition, we had like a senior that had been around for a while, and whenever our lead had to go out of town or had some other tasks that he had to take care of, he could like give those tasks to the senior to then make sure that they could oversee. But it's not very common that it's a management role. It's more of just like your understanding of the product and how it's produced. So like if you have a better understanding of the process, or say for instance, like how to use trims, and you've worked with other teams, and like just it's more about your experience with like understanding the project as a whole comparatively to like the smaller parts that a junior would understand. Like a junior is only going to be working with like props and like smaller assets, where a senior is going to be like, oh, I know I can go talk to the lighter or the world builder and this to get this straight, because I've worked with these teams before and I understand how it all works together. And a junior might not understand that kind of fuller comprehension of the title.
Yeah, I'm scared to think that it's that high of a quality, but I don't know. I feel like that's something a senior shouldn't be overpassed by a junior, in my opinion. It's just kind of weird. But I mean, I'm not saying all seniors. There's definitely majority seniors. I think we're just kind of. I don't want to say we're getting to a point where it's like, oh, I'm entitled to have this position because I've worked X amount of years. Despite my portfolio not being the best, I've worked this amount of years. I am entitled to have this position as a senior artist. That's the only thing I want to stay away from because, like, that's the last thing I want to, because then it's just like pay. It's like obviously the junior artist is getting paid less, the senior artist is getting paid more, and the junior artist does more in terms of producing quality art. And that's the last thing I don't like when people aren't given what they deserve.
Yes.
So
I agree. I think that's a big thing right now in the industry, is that, and that's happened to me a few times, and a lot of people I know, is like you'll be like working like way harder, you'll be producing way more work, you'll have a fuller comprehension of the project than say someone that's just been there for 5 years, just not really doing that much, just kind of sitting there. And it's like recognizing who's actually doing the work and actually who's learning and who's improving their skills over just like the amount of quantifiable time or the projects they've worked on. Like, to me, when someone comes to Dekogon, they're like, oh, I worked on like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and this. And I was like, but I don't have any work to show. And then I have some junior that comes up to me and says, I've not worked on any games, but look at my portfolio, and his portfolio is like outstanding. I'm always gonna take that dude that has an amazing portfolio, because like at the end of the day, like I'd rather have someone that I know knows the art comparatively to someone that just like I'm taking their word based on the credits they've been given. And so I think it's really important to remember, like, not the school you come from, the games you've worked on, the companies you've worked for. Those are important, but to me they're not as important as the actual work you're showing to me to show your quality of art and understanding.
I didn't work 1 second in the games industry by now, and I did contribute something to the Dekogon team. So guys and girls, keep grinding.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about.
Hell yeah.
As long as you got good work, that's all that matters.
You would say that the biggest step is from junior to senior, right? That's when you have made it. It's kind of hard to say, but it's when things get really serious.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly the biggest step is getting into the industry. Like, I find that once you're in the door, it's a lot easier to continue your career. Whereas that first step in is like the hardest step you'll ever have to take, because like I know people that have been trying for like 15 years trying to get in the industry, and it's just like, even though they have good work, they just either aren't putting their portfolio where it should be, their stuff's just not polished enough, or they're just having some kind of difficulty or trouble. But I know people that like got in right away because they got really lucky, and even though their work was okay, or their work ethic was like pretty good, like it wasn't like outstanding compared to some of these other people, they still are able to continue just fine, because they got that first foot in the door. So I think that's really the hardest step, is that first step.
Nice. I think this was some good value talk,
Mm-hmm.
So when you enter the industry, what are some common mistakes you both guys of you have seen that the artists can make career-wise? Are they getting not that much money paid? Are they getting contract work which is not good for them? Something like this,
Mm-hmm. You, Taylor, you want to go first?
No, you go first.
All right. So I think the biggest things that kind of mistakes, it's like, man, there's so many like little mistakes you can make right off the bat. First off, I get so many emails from people being like, "I'd like to join Dekogon." They don't include a portfolio address. They don't include like any information about themselves. They don't include an hourly rate. They don't include what they're interested in. Like, they're just like, "I'd like to work for Dekogon." It's like, man, it's like I like try to take the benefit of the doubt and like go search them on ArtStation, and if they're easy find, like I'll do a little research. But at the same time, like most employers are not going to do that. Most employers are not going to take the effort to go look you up because you didn't provide information to them. So I think first thing is like making sure when you apply for a job, or like you're looking for a job, or you're talking to people, give them like your full information, let them know like who you are, your portfolio, the work you possess, things like that. And then I think the other thing like is like when you get an art test, or when you're starting in the industry, or your first job, pay attention to small details. Like, I can't tell you how many people have come into like Dekogon or studios I've worked at, and the first thing they do is misname everything, or like put things in the wrong file conventions, or like whatever. And it's just like those kind of things are immediately like kind of like frowned upon, especially if it's an art test, because that's a sign that
they tell you, especially when like we clearly explicitly tell you stuff, like, oh man.
Yeah, and so it's like, just pay attention and like make sure that you're like taking the extra effort to like make the client and whoever you're working for or whatever studio you're applying for completely happy to know that you check the full package, you check your full work, you understand the full process, because that's always a sign to me. It's like if someone's messy now, they're only going to get messier as they go on.
I would say what I see is a lot is like what I said earlier, that over hurdling that confidence barrier, not feeling comfortable, being a little too selective. I never put artists in a situation to where I know they can't do it, but I always give them the option to say, hey, like I know you can do it, but like, do you want to do it? And obviously they can do the creative constraints, but it's not the creative constraints that's of concern. It's the technical constraints. This is, game art. You have to make something look good in as few draw calls as possible. I'd say, yeah, part of it's like your own doing of like not wanting to, take that leap of faith. I think that's probably what I've seen a lot in artists that have came in, or they're not really pushing that, to the extra mile. And yeah, that's probably what I would say.
Why would you say that they are not pushing the extra mile? Why are they lazy? Are they afraid of your critique, Taylor?
I don't know where that became a meme. But I think part of it's they're just stuck. They just don't know how to work themselves out of that knot. So I remember when, going back to collab 1, just remember getting stuck on something and just looking at the reference image for like 30 minutes straight, just trying to figure out how the hell to do the shape, or how to make this and like sub D, or like what's the like best way to go about this. Some people just cannot work themselves out of that knot. I don't think it's a problem to where they creatively can't do it. They just can't. Something's just not, the neurons are just not connecting with that specific thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's an extent to where there's like a line to where it's laziness, because I think laziness, if you just crap out and just like okay, yeah, I'm done, I think that's laziness. But I don't think the process that takes like someone, it takes us someone a little bit longer to figure out something. It could just be them just like really thinking about it too long. But yeah, I think the biggest winner is the people who come out at the end and actually do it and finish it. And despite the last thing I want is to get a message to say, hey, like I brought this asset all the way to here and I can't finish it, so can you pass it down to somebody else? That's the last thing I want to do, and that's the last thing I want to hear. Because it tells me that you can't work yourselves out of something that you said that you could do. Mm-hmm. And also it shows a lack of responsibility, that especially when I ask people, can you do it? And they don't, and they say, yeah, I can do it. And then they get to the stage and they just can't. I think that's a big thing for guys that are coming in, is that always just try to complete everything you do. And I don't mind if people come out and reach out to me and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I figure this out? I spent the whole last day trying to figure this out and I couldn't. Then yeah, that's my job, is to help. I'm not like leaving them in the water, but I do have a lifesaver if they need it. So part of that is like identifying like what's struggling and like what are you learning from the struggle, and then part of it is like if you're a lead, or if you're someone who has a responsibility and you don't do anything to contribute or to help out your coworkers, then you're not doing your job. So yeah.
So would you say that you can practice this, getting out of this rut?
Yeah. It's literally just putting yourselves in like the worst situations. Like just look up something crazy, or if you want something crazy, reach out to me. Taylor.brandenburger@yahoo.com. I'll give you some crazy ass references that you are not gonna want to do. That's what you do. So just literally go on ArtStation. I like to stick to concepts like I usually go into a concept area and I try to find concepts that are like lower tier, that don't have too much attention, and like make them a 3D model and then boost them up when I release the 3D asset, because it's almost like a win-win. You get to show this like really awesome concept artist that's not seen otherwise, and then you get to also show a really cool 3D artist or 3D model. But I think part of it is just like saying you're gonna do it, and despite you not wanting to do it, it's like that one graph. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, all this, and then like the next stage is like it just drops, and then it just drops. Yeah, so just putting yourself out there and actually just completing something through and through. And you realize it's not that bad once it's done.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a personal thing. You're always making yourself worse than you really are. It's kind of an artist thing, you know. You're comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, especially when it's public too. Especially when you're working on like something that's, it's easier to crap out when you're by yourself and you're working on like a personal project, but it's not something you would want to do in like a studio environment, or it's a lot easier to say like reach out to somebody and say, hey, I need help, than to just leave.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Could you any wise words for that as well, or?
Yeah, I think that's
on the head.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit it on the head. I think it's just artists are notorious for not being completionists, including myself. Like, it's something I struggled with when I was first getting in the industry, and it's just like you just gotta force yourself to complete it, no matter how difficult it is, and just like knowing how to exercise your understanding your resources and like the people around you is like really key. Just to be like, I don't understand how to do this. How can I figure it out? Like either looking it up online or like watching tutorials, or trying something that's like half of it so you can like understand half the process and finish the rest later, or like, however you can take it so you can digest the work and get it done without having to be like, I can't do it. Like, it's just one of my art directors when I was younger told me, you can never not turn in work, but you can always turn in shitty work. So basically that means like it sounds stupid, but it's like a client always expects you to deliver something. Sometimes you might deliver it and it might not be the best you could do, but at least you finished it. But you can never not turn something in. That's the worst. No one remembers anything worse than being like, oh, I just didn't finish it. That's like the absolute worst,
Yeah. Okay. So how would you say can I speed up my 3D workflow, my texturing, my baking, my modeling? So is there any big tips you can give?
I would say kind of map out how you're going to approach things prior to them. I usually will take like 10 minutes and just look at the reference and kind of figure out where I can cut corner, or like do the full pipeline, and then once you establish the pipeline, go back and see where you can cut corners. Like say, oh, I don't need to do something here because I can stack that here. Save on UV space, save on, all that stuff. Texture res, and just overall work. I like to cut corners a lot, and I think a lot of people don't realize that game art is basically what you can is 50% of it's like working around something else. It's always just trying to figure out where you can cut as many corners as possible. And a lot of people think it's cheating. It's like, if that's cheating, man, wait till you learn more about, just game art in general, how much you cheat. So, I would definitely do that. Just like map out your pipeline and figure out where you can stack things. The thing is, you don't want to spend too long in that process, because then you might be overthinking things. So you kind of have to keep it short and sweet.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah, I feel like I tell my students a lot that, because they'll model this like crazy like intricate chair, and then they'll make their scene and they put it in the corner where it's dark and you don't even see it. And I was like, as if you'd have planned that out a little bit better, we wouldn't have had you even made that chair, or we could have just made a silhouette of a chair and it would have been good enough. So it's like always trying to think about like how the assets are being used, or what you're making and why it's being used, or in what way it's being used. And it'll save you a bunch of like rework, because you'll find that sometimes it's like either A, you don't have to, like Taylor said, you can cut corners and find ways to make it so that the asset fits for the need and for the timeline, or B, you might find that the asset needs a different kind of workflow or something than you would originally have planned.
Also, I think it's also good to consider, especially if it's a personal project, give yourself deadlines. I think that's really important.
For
sure. Because you don't got 20 hours to make something you don't have 20 hours to make a chair. You probably have like a day or something. So give yourself that I guess stress. Say, okay, like if I were you probably could just ask somebody like that, hey, like what would you estimate this? And then try to fit that time frame. Like, okay, I give you a day and a half, so 12 hours. And you say, okay, now that I'm given an estimate, because that estimate changes everything. That can change, like, from you doing the whole thing as a creative, unique asset with like 4 texture sets, or that can change it to like 2 trims, and that just cuts time like completely in half. So giving yourself that restriction, like, okay, you only got 8 hours to do this. And also that once you transition to like working and like studios and whatnot, having that deadline hang over your head, it's like nothing, because you're used to working in the time frame. And then at that point, you start to become better with estimates, because now you can tell people like, oh, this will take me 6 hours. Or like, say if a company comes to you and says, hey, we're thinking, what are you thinking regarding this reference? Like, oh, I've done this before. I know it's going to take 6 hours or something crazy, something like that. So yeah, giving yourself a little bit more restrictions. Yeah, because I think that creates other stress down the road. Because, like, yeah, you can spend 20 hours perfecting something, but, like, what if you're in a studio environment and you're only given, like, 6 hours? So, yeah.
Would you say that in a studio environment you don't have that much time per asset like when you're freelancing? How's the time value there? Maybe Clinton, you can answer this. You worked in the studio before.
Yeah, I think it depends on the studio. Like, okay. I would say actually my favorite studio to work at so far has been the Coalition, because I never felt like the time estimates were too crunchy for the most part. Like, my lead was really good at giving you an appropriate amount of time, and then if you needed more time, you could figure out like, okay, well, maybe we can like bargain, maybe we can take away time from this, or maybe we could reuse this thing to get this thing done. And so I really enjoyed like the process there, because it was kind of you'd have like, a day or a day and a half to make a tileable texture, and then like, 2 to 3 days to make a prop that's really intricate. But of course they're looking for like really high quality, like cinematic assets for gears and stuff. And so it made a slight difference in how it looked overall. But yeah.
So it was kind of switching, right? It was kind of depending on the studio and the project.
Yeah, exactly. So like when I work at home, it's like obviously I want to be a bit faster and like a little bit more efficient, just because I know, like Taylor said, I don't have all day to like get something done. So, finding ways to like make it as efficient as possible, or like, find ways to like speed up your workflow, or like, map pieces to multiple things, or, reuse trims or whatnot. Any way you can kind of speed it up, because when you're on your own time at home doing freelance or whatnot, you kind of have to be a little bit more like, I guess, like thrifty about making sure that your time is well spent.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well said.
So I think that was a huge value for the listeners, and I have one final question. I think this question is kind of, funny. So Clinton, why did you want to become a game developer?
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry for this question, but everybody wanted to know it.
That's okay. Man, so some folks know, some folks don't, but like I had a really hard time deciding what I wanted to do when I was younger, like really hard. So I knew when I was younger that I wanted to be an artist. So that was like a really firm, like I want to be an artist. Like when I was like, I don't know, like 6, 7, I was really into art. So that kind of continued on forward. But then I went to school, and I went to school for graphic design. So I got a degree in that. And then I was like, man, I don't want to design, like, I don't want to cut people out of t-shirts and like do stuff like that. Like I just wasn't into it. Like I like graphic design, and I think graphic design is a beautiful thing, but I just couldn't get as like excited about it. Like I just felt like kind of limited in a 2D world. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I could get into 3D animation. So then I got a degree in animation, and then I was like, man, animation is so slow to see any results. Like basically, it's like you'll move like a character's arm, and then that takes like 12 years to render. And I'm like, this is way too long to see the results. So I'm like, man, I want to see the art now. Like I want to see what it looks like this second. And so then I started like working with folks and like getting into like more and more like animation for games. And then that kind of pushed me more into like, I really enjoyed modeling and texturing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try it. I'm just gonna go back to school again, and then get a degree in games. So then I went to school for another 2 years and got my master's in games. And then that was where I basically realized, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. And I actually started in that with characters, but then everyone at school told me like, you don't want to do characters unless you're extremely good at it, because characters is there's like one character artist at a studio for every like 15 environment artists. So I was like, I definitely don't want to be unemployed, so I'm gonna go for the environment art instead. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed environment art. Like I really enjoyed being able to create the space and just kind of tell a narrative. And I like that when I put it into the game, it looked how I imagined it would look. Like there's no like guessing. I'm not like, how will this look when it renders in 12 hours? Like it just looks like it is. So that I think the whole real-time art was something that basically that was the key piece that was missing for me, and that's what made me decide to get into games in the long run.
Okay, nice. And as we already know, Taylor, you haven't been to school, so why did you want to become a game developer?
I grew up watching a bunch of behind-the-scenes videos of how video games were made.
Okay.
And, seeing Elder Scrolls documentary series about, how they made the game. And there's a couple notable ones, but I just forget because they're just so damn old. But just seeing how people can get together and, contribute to something that they all loved was super appealing. But I always liked that. I always liked watching. That's why I loved like the Kratos thing documentary. Because it reminds me a lot about that period in my life. So pretty much that's what stemmed the whole thing is all those documentaries about studio life. But I didn't make the decision that was like maybe when I was like 10 or 12 watching those videos. I didn't make the decision to be a game artist till after senior year, so like going into 19 years old. So that kind of like I can see where it kind of stemmed from, but I didn't take it seriously until after high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, what about you?
Man, I always loved video games. But it kind of was unreal for me and also for my parents to get into game industry, because they always said, we don't really know if this is something for you. There is nothing. There is not many studios, and here in Germany you won't find a job. And they always wanted to play it safe. And then I get first into automotive industry because I live near Munich and near Ingolstadt, where the Audi headquarters is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I first went into the automotive, but after like 5 years in 3D design in automotive, I was like, nope, I don't want to be in automotive. I really want to get into games now, and I want to get this seriously. So this is why I'm here.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like when you're in a job like that and you're creative, it's hard because it's like everything is so methodical and it has to be like thought out to like exactly a specification already provided for you when it comes to like cars and stuff.
This is so true.
And I that was one of my first gigs, freelance gigs as well, as like working on some automotive parts. And I was like, this just isn't for me. Like I'm not
so many boundaries.
I'm not that analytical. I like being free and just kind of open with like creating stuff as I feel, for sure.
And have my own touch on the object,
Exactly, yeah.
And when you're working in automotive, you have so many boundaries where you have to collide in,
Yeah, I think it's funny. I was telling my wife this the other day. It's like artists, I think, are the most selfish people on earth, because basically we're like, okay, you pay me, I'm gonna go away and I'm gonna make something for you, and then I'm gonna make you look at it. And and it's kind of a funny idea if you think about it as like an outward perspective as to like what we actually do. But yeah, I just feel like as an artist, you just thirst for that kind of like creative freedom to kind of control what you make.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's true.
Funny.
So Taylor, do you know why Dekogon is called Dekogon? I was always asking myself this.
Oh man.
I don't know if Taylor knows. Does Taylor know?
I definitely don't know. I'm surprised I haven't asked this sooner.
Yeah.
Is it like, a god, polygon, like a...
I think that's
like
right.
That. I don't know. I'm not going to try.
Maybe Cliff can answer this for us.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the polygon part is the gon part, and then deco for DECO represents two things. It represents 10 years. I was in the industry before I created the company.
Oh, yeah.
And 2, deco, which is like a form of art, or like art deco, and it's based on I basically, when I created the studio, I came up from a traditional art background of understanding like art as a foundation and a lot of art history, and so like I wanted to make sure to incorporate that within like us as like artists, like basically like we we contribute and also understand to the art form like what we take from the past and then present to the future kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mind blown. Yeah, literally insert the GIF.
Yeah. I think my wife was about like sick of hearing all the names I was coming up with when I came up. I like sat for like 6 weeks just trying to think of like a good name, and I was just like, man, I can't think of a good one. And we were sitting at the airport, and I just wrote down like she's like write down all the things that are like of importance to you as like for a company, and that was like those are all the kind of things that kind of melded together that kind of created a name, and I just really like the flow of it. I just the name as well.
What was it? Almost.
Oh man, it was all sorts of weird names. I can't even remember. I'll have to find the list, but yeah, it was a bunch. And she was like, "That's stupid. Don't do that."
I love Amanda, man. She's so funny.
So thanks, Clinton's wife, that we have now Dekogon. Thank you so much.
She's always she's my grounder. She makes sure I know if an idea is dumb or not for sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
She keeps you on the ground so you don't fly away in your creative path.
That's awesome.
Oh man. So I think it was a ride. It was a good ride with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having us on.
You didn't fight. I'm kind of happy.
No fighting.
We fought together. That's what we did. We fought together.
Yeah, exactly.
You did it together. Yeah, you fought together through the questions. They weren't that hard. So anything planned for Dekogon? Carlos did want to know that. He's hot. He's craving for stuff.
Yeah, Carlos is a beast. Carlos is definitely one of our best artists. He's got amazing work. I'm always happy to work with Carlos. But yeah, I think just like moving forward, we're gonna have more and more contract work, and I think as we grow, like the quality of our company is like getting more and more refined, and I think we're just like better understanding our processes and like interactions with clients and just the work that we're able to take on. And I think over the next few months, when you see a lot of the projects that we have under NDA released, people are going to be much more interested to see what we're going to be making over the next few years, because there's some stuff that Taylor's working on right now. I'm just like my mind is blown every time I see screenshots of it. So I can't wait till we get to release that stuff.
Yeah, because right now we're in like a transitionary period where we're kind of prepping for that chaos. Okay. That's the best way we can do it. We're refining a lot of things. We're looking over things. We're even polishing a lot of our internal pipelines and how we manage, organize, and we're just slowly using this summer to organize everything so we have it all
everything out. Yeah,
because it's gonna get very chaotic in the coming months. So,
for sure,
and that's great.
So a lot of stuff which is gonna be released in the next few months, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
For sure.
I saw your subway train scene in Unreal, man. There are so many projects on ArtStation which does the new lighting, and it looks amazing, man.
Yeah. I love seeing them, man. I check every day, so like to see how we're doing on like Unreal Marketplace and stuff like that. And that scene, it tells me how many times it's downloaded. It's downloaded at least 300 times a day, at least.
What?
Yes.
300 times.
300? At least. And then I checked maybe what was it, like maybe a week ago, and I checked the full amount, and since it's been released for free on the Unreal Marketplace, I think it was at like 32,000 downloads or something like that. I was like, this is crazy. How did this many people download this? Like, it's nuts. I didn't even know there was that many developers in the world.
Or lighting artists.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just really cool to see that.
What was the main reason you did that? It's because it's for free, you could charge like $15 and
sure.
people would buy it like the same amount.
It was a negotiation between us and Unreal, and also like it's been a scene that I've been using to teach my modularity class with CGMA for quite some time, and so because of that, it felt like it was not only a good outlet for students to use that as a resource to understand modularity a bit better, it also was a great call to Dekogon to be like, here's the quality of work that we're able to produce, and here you can see what talents that we possess internally, and then also just like being able to see like our work being relit or recreated or reused in other games is another great thing. Like I love when I get to see that. Every once in a while I'll see a game, they'll be like, all of a sudden a subway train will pull up, and I'll be like, holy crap, that's my subway train, like in this game that I was just playing. So it's it's just really fun to have all those like possibilities when it's out there free for the marketplace.
So I think you have a better insight on this. Are there any upcoming games who are with Deco stuff? So right from the marketplace,
Yeah, there's definitely a few. Most of them are under NDA, and like I don't want to spoil anything quite yet, but I think we'll definitely be seeing a lot of games over the next like 6 months that get released that have a pretty large amount of Dekogon content.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird.
So people will stay pumped.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm so happy that it's growing and growing and growing, because it's kind of such a nice community to be in, to work with.
Yeah, for sure. It makes a big difference. Like I don't know. It's really powerful to me when I wake up every morning and I see like the just like work in progress thread or people critiquing
Discord,
each other.
Yeah,
and just like really giving each other really good feedback. And I think that's sometimes really hard to find. I feel like Polycount used to be a really good source of that, and I feel like since in the last like maybe 2 years, like Polycount's not gone silent, but it's just a little bit harder for new artists or at least like emerging artists to get a really good like firm feedback on there, because I just feel like you just don't have as many people commenting as what's used to be, because most people are just like, here's my work on ArtStation and it's done, like I'm not going to get any feedback or do anything like that. And it's like I kind of miss that iterative process that Polycount used to have, and I feel like that's what kind of we're trying to invoke in our Discord.
And I think it's because Polygon was growing too big, right? Maybe it's kind of this, because when you're in a smaller community like you see in Dekogon Discord, you have like, how many people are on the Discord? Like 200? 100?
Like 100, like 110,
and everybody in this Discord is working together and focusing on the Discord group and providing feedback,
That's very true.
And you have so many people on Polycount who just lost their password, who are not really active there, who are now on Dekogon,
Yeah, that's true. It definitely makes a difference when you like know the person too, like, or at least you know them in context of like the group. Like you feel more inclined to respond and connect. Yeah,
it's awesome because it's like a 50-50 thing. We set up the platform to have these relationships that we normally wouldn't have, and now like it's just weird to say like, oh yeah, I have friends in here, I have friends there, I have friends there. It's like it's really cool, and everyone like it's nice, and it's just really nice.
Yeah. And having everyone that's like working at different studios is really cool too, because you kind of get an idea of like where people are with like different technical tricks or like things they're doing that that you might not have thought of, that maybe a particular studio is using or implementing into their workflow, and so it makes it a little bit more of a, I guess, like more of a wider umbrella for like understanding as an artist to grow, comparatively to like if you're just working in one studio and everyone's using the same software. It's like no one's ever going to learn enough different software because they're all using the same thing. And it's like when everyone's using, like Taylor's using Blender and I'm using Maya, and it's like somebody might have me be using someone like Modo or something, and it's like, oh well, you could do it in this way and that how, and that's like it's just really nice to know those different skills and abilities are kind of being shared amongst those people.
Yeah,
it's definitely a community.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good community. So thank you so much, guys. It was great to have you on my show, on my first co-op. So
that's awesome.
I'm on the hunt for other duos.
Yeah,
man. Thank you for having us. That was a good talk.
Yeah, thanks so much.
It was really good. So thank you so much. Take care, bye.
Yeah, later, man.
Bye-bye.